Stories stir the soul.
Stories reveal.
And stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
we've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
hello and welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm your host, Wendy Pett.
I'm Todd Isberner. Do you ever ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I fill in the blank?
Yes, I have. I have asked myself that.
Why is that? Because I think there are times in life when God brings us an opportunity to make a significant change in something. And maybe that's in regards to career. And you don't make those changes because why?
Because you're comfortable.
You're stuck.
Yeah. You like the predictability of how your life is going.
You want certainty because then it seems to feel like it'll be a lot easier. Well, the reality is that on today's show, you're going to hear a story from Joe Schiraldo that is going to challenge you to break out of this place of fear and comfort and all those other things, the excuses you use.
The fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah, so that you don't end up making a change. Instead, you end up stuck. And I think you're going to learn some things from Joe that is going to be very applicable to your own life. Like, how do I get unstuck? What do I need to really make this happen? What sort of conversations do I have to have with myself and with God and with others? So really listen closely to those kinds of lessons that you can pick up on to make the breakthrough in your life.
Yes, because Joe Schiraldo is an incredible human being. He is a family man, husband to Monica, father of two, and he is a friend to many, including Todd and myself, and someone who has been transformed by the renewal of his faith. You will see how he is just on fire for the Lord. It's so fun. But Joe is also a lieutenant in the fire department of New York, and more recently has become a kingdom entrepreneur. And with his wife, Monica, they are co-owners of Kingdom Education Center. Like, that's way off the beaten path of being a fireman. So I believe his story is going to inspire you and encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and get rolling. So enjoy. Welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough, Joe Schiraldo. We are so excited to have you on.
Man, it is good to see your face.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here.
Always smiling.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you hear that? What sort of an accent is that?
It's a little
it's an East Coast Minnesotan accent.
I don't think it's Minnesotan at all.
Man, there's something about that New York accent, and I think that's why you guys get so much done. You know, it's just the way you talk.
Okay. I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
Well,
so it's not from the coffee.
Oh man, we've had the the honor and the privilege of knowing Joe and his wife Monica for
a couple of
years
now.
Yeah. We had a great.
2 years,
Has it been 2 years? Joe and I had an opportunity to meet. We were actually in a little competition. You want to talk about that?
Well, you talk about it a lot on this show. He's very proud of it, Joe. But Joe was on his team.
Is this the part where I had to pull you out of the water because you were panicking, or is this? Oh, no,
this is the part.
Hey, I don't want to hear about any mouth-to-mouth anything.
This is the part where I had to kick you in the butt to keep you going. So so real briefly, we had this Upgrade Your Human competition, and there were how many guys on our team? There were 5 of us.
Yeah, there were 5 of us.
Okay, so we were competing against 8 other teams for first place. We had to swim, we had to climb a hill, we had to run, we had to carry a boat, we had to cheer each other on, and we were, I don't know, 3rd or 4th place, and everybody kept cheering, "Come on, you can do it!" And wouldn't you know, we were 2nd place. There's one event to go. It was a puzzle to solve, part of the mental game. And we're all sitting there like, what is this? And
Joe got it.
Joe's real quiet. All of a sudden he goes, "I got it. Get out of the way." He figures out the puzzle, and we beat the other team and came in 1st place. So Joe, thank you.
That's cool.
Thank you. It takes a village.
Yes, it does. Hey, listen,
Village of idiots.
I want to get.
Oh,
I'm totally kidding. You guys are all bright, and we had Justin Maina on the show too, and he was part of y'all's team, so that was super fun.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, I want to get right to the heart of something here, because in your bio we talked a little bit about your background and your wife Monica's background. By the way, part 2 of this, I hope it's going to be Monica, where we're one-on-one. We get her version of this whole story. So Joe, let's get
the true version.
The true version, right? So here we go. After this is 20 years, you've had a career as a firefighter, which is amazing to me. I mean, that's a brutal career. And you've been in it for 20 years. And now Monica, your wife, in the retail business for over 25 years. And for part of that career, she's an executive manager at Bloomingdale's. You both have got very satisfying, successful careers. And yet you make this crazy decision to start something that's more in line with your passion. And it's all about educating children, teaching them godly values. And the crazy thing is, this is completely outside your area of expertise. Neither of you had any experience in this, but you had a lot of passion. So now we look at the school, what is it, about 6 months to a year later?
And it's succeeding.
And
I'll tell you what, Valentine's Day will be 1 year.
It'll be a year already.
1 year on our own. Yeah.
Fantastic.
In an area completely unpredictable for you guys. And now God is blessing us and you're succeeding. So I have to ask this. Why do you think some people who they've got a dream or they've got a vision, they've got a passion, and they know they're going to have to make a change to get there, why does it seem so difficult for them to pull it off? What stops them?
Well, it's that comfort zone, right? People don't like getting out of that comfortability, you know. Hey, if I sit here, if I don't want to, rock the boat, or so it's, and it's always scary, and it was even scary for us, like she was running retail, I'm a fireman, you know what I mean? She runs retail, I run into buildings, now, like. And the funniest part, like, if you want to rewind, just how God, if you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans, And so we went from Monica, who, never wanted to get married, never wanted to move out to Long Island, never, before, this is prior to her meeting me, of course, never wanted to have any kids. So now, not only we're in Long Island, we're married, we have 2 kids. Also a minivan, so she might want me to edit that. Yeah, I totally convinced her. We're also running a school. It's an education center that we call it, and so we use the Montessori method, right, which was developed by Maria Montessori in the early 1900s, even the late 1800s, and so what we do is it's more of a hands-on training for children to really explore. It's not your typical education. Right? Like they have to answer to a bell. They get little 15-minute breaks, because all that is primarily is prepping you for the workforce. Not to say the workforce is bad, but it also doesn't teach kids to think outside the box. And
it highlights their learning skills, correct?
Correct. Right. And it's kind of like a child-led environment. And what we decided to do, especially with, our faith has totally blossomed and grown. We're well, why do we just have to leave it at education? Why don't we bring back godly values and principles? So we use the Montessori method with godly principles, and we just intertwining them, and it's going great.
And isn't that what really fueled the fire was how the school system is currently, and just the frustration with where the public schools are headed and where they are currently, and your own desire for having your 2 children in school, of how do we get them educated in a godly way? Wasn't that kind of the fuel to the fire? Here I am telling the firemen a fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
But wasn't that kind of the ammunition to start this whole process?
Well, yeah. So actually, it's funny because, our lives are just so busy. And obviously, when you don't think that I'm going to run a school and my career is going to take a different path, and you're just, okay, got to get a good area. Got to send my kids to a good public school over here out in Long Island, paying almost $20,000 in taxes. You know what I mean? They better be going to a good school. Then all of a sudden COVID hit, right? And that to me was a huge wake up call, and on so many different levels, because the virtual training, and these teachers were trying to do whatever it is that they could do. No one knew what was happening. However, just watching how our kids just weren't jiving with it, they weren't learning, they were regressing and everything. Plus, once they started opening it, they were saying, oh, your kids could come back, but they gotta have to wear masks. And I'm not depriving my child of their first experience of school, masked up, having to create that 6 foot social distancing. Yeah, and we can go back and forth. To me, I think total scam. Actually, you can just tell how I feel about it. So we were like, no, we have to take this on our own. And we were part of like one co-op, and we kind of liked the way it was flowing and this and that. Our kids learned pretty well. And then that co-op went somewhere else. And we're like, well, why don't we take it on our own? And so it started February 14th, Valentine's Day of last year. So my 2 kids in my living room, okay? And our 2 kids, like the 4 kids, like the 5 kids. Next thing you know, this was even probably right around that time, Monica and myself, she found some woman on Facebook Marketplace who was selling a classroom, okay? And we flew down to
like
Virginia,
selling the furniture, or
selling like the classroom like materials. And Montessori is very hands-on, so fill these blocks and beads and all this other stuff. And Monica supported me on a lot of decisions that I've done. So she was like, all right, babe, we gotta go. And I was like, obviously, thinking about, all right, I gotta who are these people we're going to on a whim. But something told me, all right, Joe, this is where you just shut up and go. Listen to your wife and go. We flew down to Virginia, bought a classroom from this woman who was a blessing, a God-sent blessing. Her name is Miss Juana. And she not only gave us all the materials, she gave us it's like her Montessori Bible of how things should be run, which in itself is a lot of money. And we instantly had a great relationship, put it in a U-Haul, drove it all the way back up to New York, had no clue where I was going to put it, cleaned out my garage, threw all of it in the garage, and then we started in our basement. And then my basement got bigger and bigger and more kids. And now we're at actually a school that's closed down, and we have 4 classrooms. We have 42 kids. Now we have 12 more on the waiting list for September. And it just keeps coming. And
okay,
that
is a big, huge move. And again, I'm just thinking, like, you guys again had no experience doing this whatsoever, but you had a desire which was born out of a need, especially when COVID hit and you saw what the situation was like, and the 2 of you got together and decided we're going to get after this problem. But there are others who are listening, Joe, who have got something stirring inside of them, but they're just afraid. They don't know, like, I just know what's the outcome going to be. And you guys didn't know the outcome either. It's a very unpredictable area. So what is it that drove you guys to keep on going? I mean, I know firefighters are tough, but setting up a school is even tougher. What drove the 2 of you? What kept you going? What made sure that you weren't going to be stopped by obstacles or lack of knowledge?
So it wasn't that we were going to be stopped by obstacles, right? It was 100% going to happen, right? But what we did was, what's going to happen when these obstacles come our way? How do we get around? How do we come over these obstacles? Or in some cases, how do you break right through them?
See, this is what firefighters do, though.
Yeah,
don't
they break
right
through.
They like to break stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. So breaking stuff has its, perks. But so pretty much, honestly. And this is at a time where our faith was becoming stronger and stronger. And we just gave it up to God at that point.
Wow.
And it's crazy. Now, you talked to me a few years ago, there's no way I probably ever would have said that, right? Which is in itself a whole other podcast that we could do.
Well, we're actually going to touch on that. That's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so, we prayed on it. We're like, is this the right thing? And then what I said was, I was like, look, what's the worst that can happen? If not us, then who, right? It's kind of like what we learned in the group, part of a group called the King's Council.
King's Council, yeah.
Yes. So, and that's one of, what Coach Riley would always say, if not me, then who? And it's a great philosophy to live by. And what's the worst that can happen? All right, we'll sell the material we got. Or we have, we'll figure it out. Like, especially like being a fireman, no one cares about your excuses. Figure it out. Figure it out, and that's what it is, right? They say, like, when you come through those doors, leave all your bull crap outside. I'm being politically correct right now. Leave all your stuff outside because no one cares, right? Like,
it's about saving lives in your business, and this is about similar saving lives in a different way, right?
Correct.
With these young students,
right? Like you don't want to hear from me if your house is on fire. And I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. Something's telling me I'm a little tired. No one cares. Just do the job. Good point. Now this whole thing came pretty much the same thing for like my kids. You know, it's not who cares, we care. Okay. And we saw this whole between the wokeness and listen, let's just call it what it is. You know, they're taking God out of everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's like one of the number one tactics to do. It goes back, you know, it's the thing is the enemy is smart and they play the long game.
Yeah.
Right. And before you know it, holy smokes, you're up to your neck in like quicksand. You didn't even know what just happened.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we're trusting on God. We're gonna make this thing happen. And that's it. Like,
well, I love your question, and I want to challenge listeners who might be facing an opportunity for a change and they're not quite sure. Do what Joe and Monica did. Ask yourself, well, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
and I guess if not you, then who?
Right.
And I think that's a great starting point for taking action.
Yeah, and I think that the way that you overcome fear, first of all, that these 20 years, like God wastes nothing, right? Like even being a firefighter, and maybe you're wired that way anyway, because we know you as a friend, and maybe you just kind of are. I think you are, but still, you have the mindset.
You mean crazy, Wendy?
No, not crazy.
Yes, I'll vouch for that.
Yeah. Crazy for the Lord. Yeah. No, you're just on a mission. Like your mind is set. Like, okay, I'm going to overcome this. You know, excuse the term, but come hell or high water, we're going to get this done. So, you know, just like when we're on the cover of the fireman's calendar.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait,
wait a minute. What were you looking
the
at?
cover. It was July.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait, were you real? I'm just teasing. Were you really on the calendar?
It was.
Oh,
Yeah, 2012.
Might have known.
I was just kidding. I've never even seen a firefighter calendar, but you were July. That's
Sure. Why are you winking?
No, I really haven't ever seen
Wow.
one, but that's great. Okay, so you were in the calendar. Okay, so that's awesome. But that could have been a whole nother fear you had to overcome. But the reality is that, you know, we want to know, like, what did you learn from this process of busting through and finding the solution and just going for it, even when it didn't feel right, you didn't know the next step. Like, what did you learn from this, and what can we learn from this?
Well, yeah, maybe even describe maybe an incident that happened where you had to face a real unpredictable situation and you were scared. Because tell us the story, paint the picture for us.
So yeah, oh man. So one thing I definitely learned, you know, you have to stop caring what other people are going to say. Like, don't let other people's opinions define you or what you can do, especially people who have nothing going on in their lives, right? It's like that crabs in a bucket, you know, everyone's trying to pull you down because they themselves don't want to be looked at as if, oh, I'm just too complacent, right? So that's one thing. And no matter what you do, whether business, whether it be training for, whether it be a fight or an event or anything, there's always those naysayers, right? So you got to get that. Once you get through that noise first, okay, then you have to embrace the journey, and which is huge, the ups, the downs. Because if you don't smile when the stuff is down, and that's why being rooted, I think, in faith is paramount, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we hit rock bottom, which we did, whether it be financially or this or these people left, or, you know, you could start to panic, you know. And once you say that there is a plan, right? There's a plan, and I'm going to get there. And one of the crazy things that happened was, we're going through this process. I guess there were people who didn't like the fact that we were operating in our basement, right? Mm-hmm. So the town people came in from the village and they were going to fine us. Like, I had to go downtown, I had to talk, and then, you know, and it's hard because I'm a very loyal person, you know, and I'm not trying to badmouth people, right? Because things happen for a reason, right?
Sure.
So I'm still praying for the people who've called, or like we say in New York, dropped a dime on us, okay? And it's not like we were doing anything bad. You know, they just didn't like the fact that cars were pulling off and kids, and why weren't they in a school? And sometimes when people heard that, oh, it's going to be a little Christian based, they're like, oh, like, what is this, a cult? Like, immediately their minds go right to like the negative, right? So time was closing in on us, and we had to find a place, right? We put a bid on a property, right? And fell through, right? I was like, God, if this is ours, then okay, give it to us. If not, take it away quick so I can make a move. Took it away from us. The next day, we had a call saying, hey, you want to check out this property for rent maybe? And I was like, oh, because I was stuck on, I need to buy, because I wanted control, right? Then I was like, all right, let's not be so close-minded. Let's go check out the lease. We went in, and it was on a school that was attached to an Episcopalian church. I didn't even know what an Episcopalian was. Turns out they're like Catholics, but women could be priests and divorce is okay. I don't know, whatever. So they had a school that was closed down, right? And we checked out. It was exactly like we prayed for something like this, right? I was like, Monica, you know what would be great? Could you imagine if God just like gives us something, like whether it be like church and we have land and stuff like that, and it happened. Okay, so not only did we go there, they had like 5 different classrooms for us that we could lease. Okay, they have 4 acres, 4-acre like farm in the back. I'm from the city, right? And a farm is like totally Greek to me, but it's awesome, right? You're gonna give me 4 acres. So a 4-acre farm where kids can learn how to like grow crops and plant and learn. They do their own beehives in the back. So that in itself was awesome. Huge old school gymnasium. So we were like, wow, is this really happening, God? So we sat down, we went through talks, and all of a sudden, because there was another Montessori school attached to it, they got a little worried that we were gonna like be a conflict of interest. So they said they pulled it from us. Right. And I'm like crushed. But then I'm like, I'm not crushed. I was like, okay. And we were just about to go to the Elevation Worship concert that night. And I had like an hour window. And I'm like, I'm going back. I'm like, there's no way I'm going up to the guy who I thought was like the bishop at the time. She's like, no, but we gotta leave. I'm like, I'm going back. I don't care. So like you said, Wendy, like when something's in my head, I'm like, no.
You're like a pit bull dog. I'm gonna
a bone. I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
So I went over there and I said, hey, Brian, can we talk? And it's again, he brings me in his house and he sits down. He's like, after I told him everything, he's like, all right, maybe we can make this happen. Sat down. Long story short, we met with some bishop a week later, and boom, the place is ours. Wow. And not only that, like they support us. So which is great. So if I didn't go back, we would never have that spot. Wow. And now what we have done, we have the town, the village trying to, summons us. Yeah. We're fighting with neighbors who were, you're like, why couldn't you just come to me and talk to me? The
perseverance.
But it's interesting, Sue. So the opposition that you got for starting on the basement, which was very disappointing and hurtful, actually led you to take action that brought you to a place where you are right now.
That you were actually praying for.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's amazing the way
funny.
God works those circumstances behind the scenes when we think we've got the right plan going, and he shows a better way, which is exactly what happened with you guys. Lots of lessons learned along the process, I'm sure, but you're constantly mentioning your faith, that you and Monica have grown deeper in your faith. So why don't you just take us back a little bit to more of the beginning of maybe in your family life, in your growing up years, like, was there a faith base for you there? And how did this progress to where you guys are today with your faith?
So I know for me, I grew up, I'm Italian, half Italian and Irish, half Italian. I don't know if you could tell, but and my name is Joe from New York, right? So obviously I had to grow up, Roman Catholic, so I went to Catholic school my whole life, and I always had a relationship, air quotes, I guess, with the Lord and Jesus. My grandmother was very religious. My great grandmother at the time, they were, of course, they wanted me to become a priest. That was like their I was like, oh, you gotta look for another grandkid. So there was something always there, right? But I didn't have a really strong relationship. So a lot of the stuff to me was kind of box checking, right? Superficial. And not that it's bad. And I was speaking with my mother the other day, and because it's kind of tough walking away from that. It's like, what? Who are you? And I thank them so much for even giving me that foundation. Because that to me was a foundation, because I could have probably been like a lot of the other people that I know who've fallen, drifted. Right? Who've drifted big time. So to me, that was a great solid foundation. But then, you get older and you go away. And I think it was at a time where God was just like, okay, I'm going to start putting one person in your life. And then next thing you know, it just spiraled. And it's so funny what they talk about, like the Holy Spirit. I never knew about the whole, I was like, oh yeah, it's like a ghost, right? Yeah, I have no clue because no one ever.
Well, they call it the Holy Ghost in the South, so maybe not.
Yeah, there was like, oh yeah, but because you would just recite things and just say things, right? And there was a zero relationship. Then, like when I got, get born again, and I always thought born again was like this guy's born again, like it was painted as if like these people were like, they're going to be into cults, or they're going to, they were just druggies or alcoholics who need another outlet in life. So they're going to hit you with the Jesus thing, but they're going to go back and drift. So that was my mindset of a born again.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And not knowing, because did not know my Bible, right? When you have to become born again, right? So once that happened, and I guess like the Holy Spirit was like unleashed, and just words are jumping off the Bible, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And then Monica came aboard, and her life has changed, and she's like a prayer warrior now. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong, we're still fighting, and
you're still a normal couple.
You're not perfect. You're not fully sanctified just yet, but you're in the process.
Yeah.
You know what I love, Joe, is that, we've known you for a couple of years, and we've seen you and Monica evolve in your faith. And it's so beautiful to watch. And just the freshness of your faith is contagious. And I think about how God really does set people in place. It's almost like he leaves breadcrumbs, right? For you to kind of take along the way until you get to where you need to be. And so some of those breadcrumb people, if you will, were in different jobs that you were doing on the side. I don't know if you want to share. Amway. You were involved with Amway, and then with how we met through King's Council, and different people have really helped support you and keep you guys strong in the faith. And so let's talk about how important that is, because that has changed, I would imagine, the trajectory of both of your faith.
Wendy, 1,000%. And it's so funny how even that whole, and that's another thing, right? Like, so here I was here, my mother-in-law was watching my kids, and they were stressing her out like crazy. Like I come home from work, I'm all cheerful, and she's just like, So
apparently they take after daddy quite a bit.
Yeah.
Lots of energy.
So, and I was like, okay, let's go to the park. We'll take a walk together. And my kids were like, no, daddy, let's go to this park. I'm like, no. Because my mother-in-law loves animals. She's like the animal whisperer. It's crazy, right? So there was a place that had a pond with a whole bunch of swans and stuff. So I'm like, all right, let's go to this place. So we were out there, we're hanging out. I made a couple, whatever. Long story short, we started talking. He was an entrepreneur. He was in Amway as well. Which was kind of funny because at first I didn't know. I'm like, oh man, they got us. I went down. But because I had an idea, but I didn't have an idea of MLM. Right. I was a city worker, bartending, personal trained, and construct, help out with demolition and stuff. So when I hear this, all of a sudden, like, and it goes to show too, like why you can't listen to what people say, right? Because if I would have listened to everyone else, I never would have followed through with these people. And they had a monumental impact on my faith walk. Yeah. Right. My buddy Mike and Dana, and they started doing a Bible study. I was like, well, Bible study, like, what is that? A bunch of men reading the Bible? To me, I thought it was
like, that's weird. Like,
yeah, okay, And then I'm like, oh my God, maybe it is a cult. You know what I mean? So you know how the devil works, right? So So all of a sudden, I got them. So I was probably in it for like 6 months, or probably like 6 months. And I was, asking questions. And he goes, listen, here's the link. Just maybe listen up. So at first I listened from afar. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a Bible, And so then I got like a new book. We do the men's study Bible. And because it tells like men how to be men, right? And, so this was before, Todd wrote his book, you know what I mean? Or we'd be using that book. But
so thank you. That's right. That's your true textbook.
Yes, okay. Yes. So we started, and then next thing you know, I got involved, and all of a sudden I get COVID, right? Like a few months later. And I'm like, it crushed me, right? So, and that's one thing I was just like, laughing at. I'm like, oh, well, it got me. You got to ride this through out. I have to do it. Go through it. Just shut up. Nobody cares. Go through it. And all of a sudden I see an ad for the King's Council comes on. And now I'm like, like, why don't I grow my Amway business with kingdom-minded people, entrepreneurs who want to grow? I'm like, instead of me reaching out to friends and, you know, people who I know aren't going the way I want, let me go here. And then obviously like the King's Council, that blew my mind. You know, so that was just another thing. I come home like, hey, Monica, there's this group. It's called the King's Council. And she's like, oh my God, get away from me. You know, like just leave me alone, right? Of course, I didn't tell her I joined. It's probably not good marriage advice, but it worked out. God made it work out. Yeah. So
I'm so glad y'all did, because we would have never met y'all.
Yeah, and I would play the trainings, and then next thing you know, her ears perked up. And just through that, I met you guys, and I met so many more people. And what's even more insane is that through that chain of events, right? If I didn't go to that park, if I didn't meet Mike, and if I didn't I am now an investor in AFN news platform.
Right.
That's all because of my alliance with the King's Council.
Right.
So now I'm an investor in a network news organization.
Right. So you're doing that. And then also you wouldn't have been inspired, I don't believe, fully and supported to do the school that you and Monica are doing as well. So it is amazing and beautiful how God works those people. So I guess, well, do you want to ask?
Yeah, so because it's interesting, because you guys, right when we met, you were sort of in between things. Do we develop the Amway business?
Monica was going to do a balloon business.
Yeah,
she was.
Remember that?
Yeah,
she did too for a little bit.
Because you both felt at least you were in a place where you knew you had the faith and the courage to make some changes. You just weren't exactly sure what those changes would be. And I think it's interesting how God sometimes can leave us in sort of a blank space to kind of bounce around a little bit until we start to develop a real desire for something. And interestingly, you know, when COVID hit for you guys, that's what God used to really start to hone in on what he wanted your focus and your passion to be toward, hence the school that now exists, which is awesome. But as you were going through that process of is it this, is it that, were there any, you know, particular circumstances that God brought into play that really immediately shifted you? Was it mostly COVID and that experience which shifted you away from the other things and into getting the school? Or because it seems like the both of you aligned really quickly and you sort of accelerated the efforts you were making to establish that school?
Yeah, so it wasn't COVID at first, right? Because at first that's kind of like when I first even started with Amway. But in particular, I think there was a point where, like, you know, we were getting not getting, but you know, we had a few people on our downline and stuff, and they would go and they would leave. And I'm like, like, what's up? Like, what? I'm like, because I know I'm out there working it. I'm reading, I'm listening. What was great about that whole experience was they were getting my mind right. Right. And all of the
great
rejection,
tools for you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Great tools, self-confidence. And they were getting me ready to even talk about my business now, right? Because you would have to go out and, you know, drop the message or whatever it was and speak to people. And then what I loved is that it was a servant leadership. It wasn't like, oh, we need to get people. Because, you know, you hear MLM and then that's what you think. The group I was with, they were so positive. And then, like, they legit cared about the person. They said, expect nothing from them, but serve, right? And it's kind of hard, you know, that's kind of, you know, a hard way to live. But all of that and people leaving and the disappointments and going through stuff prepped us for what we're going through now. So it wasn't one specific thing.
Yeah.
And you kept taking action.
Yes.
I think here's what I've seen from others that are taking a pivot in their career is that if they don't know what to do, they just are stagnant and they don't make a move. You guys were still moving. You guys were still putting your efforts and keeping things going until God, you know, I guess shifted the path that you were on, but you were still in motion. And I think that's the key there. Right?
Yeah. And again, I just want to go back for a minute because I know it's probably a little different for Monica, but in your career, you were up against some real challenges as you were fighting fires. And there were certain things that you put into practice in your life that allowed you to break through. And that's what this is all about, having these breakthroughs, having the courage, and in your case now, developing the faith to believe that God is going to work this out. But just out of curiosity, is there any story you can tell us when you were fighting a fire can you take us into that scene where you weren't quite sure how it was going to turn out, or you were scared, or you were, thinking, is this the end? Are we going to get through this thing?
Well,
what's going to happen? So paint the picture for us. Take us to that scene.
So this is my pre-God days. So I don't know if this will work.
Well, leave out the
curse words.
Leave out the language.
Yeah, no, I remember I was a fireman, and there was I worked in Harlem, right? So which is, packed rough area and stuff like that. And there was a fire shooting out of the window on like the 17th floor. So you pull out and be like, oh boy, we're going to work, So right? People coming down the elevators.
Well, wait a minute. I got to stop you because Wendy wants to know, when you got the fire call, did you slide down a pole before you got? She's always curious about that.
No, I didn't have time. I was putting on my Superman cape before that.
There you go. Right, you just flew to the fire.
You're right. You're at the scene of the fire. You're looking up 17th floor, flame shooting out. What happened?
Shooting right out, multiple windows, right? So you're like, okay, here we go. So we go in, and now you have to wait for the elevators. And sometimes if the elevators are out, you got to hoof it up, right?
You got all your gear on. How heavy is that gear?
Sometimes it'll go from anywhere from like 90 to 110, 15, depending on what position you have.
Wow.
Yeah. 110 pounds? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like carrying Todd.
Thanks a lot. And you would carry me if I needed to be carried, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Yes, you would. All right. So up you go.
So up we go. And so usually what you do in those big buildings, you always get off 2 floors below. You never get off on the floor. Because if the doors open up and then the smoke comes in, or if the fire could wrap around, because it's looking for any oxygen, right? So, and if you go to the floor below, sometimes it's a different layout, okay? And you might be disoriented. So you always go 2 floors below, and you check the hallways to see, okay, if it's apartment all the way down there, okay, that's how I have to go. And then you walk up the 2 flights. This happened to be like a long, probably like 75 feet from the door. And it's blacked out conditions. If you just close your eyes, that's exactly what you hear. And then you hear people screaming. They were dragging. So I was in the engine at the time, which means that we had the water with a hose, right? So we would have to hook up to a standpipe to get the water. The truck guys went in. They were pulling out bodies. They pulled out like a grandmother. There was another kid who died, who was like about 15, who was like autistic. What they had was, it's called a collier's mansion. They call it pretty much pack rats. Right, where they just hoarders. Okay, is another way. Like you can't even open the door to get in because they got so much crap everywhere. Right, and so you can't open the door a little bit. Now you're trying to pull people out. Okay, it's getting hotter and hotter. Not only that, it blew out the windows and started going up to the 18th floor. So now the 18th floor goes on fire. They're like, all right, we got fire on the 18th floor now. So what happens is, if a fireman goes down or something bad happens, you call a mayday over the air. Mayday, mayday, mayday. We have someone out, like you can't find so and so, right? And then it perks you up. Talk about like your adrenaline kicks in. And my one boss happened to slide through the door and go over, right? And his helmet gets knocked off, right? And now they can't find him. So now he's in a room that's blazing with no helmet on because it got knocked off, right? My God, it
got knocked off because of the blast of the fire, or just
not the blast, but it's just
because you're shimmying through stuff.
They have like clotheslines and clothes racks falling on you, so you're trying to crawl through stuff, and boom, you're hit. And I don't think his chin strap was on that tight, right? So the guy who was in front of me, now this guy just got back from like Iraq, was a military guy. And it's called a vibra alert. So it starts to buzz when you're running out of air. And this guy who's in shape, great runner, and his thing is like, he's like, dude, I gotta go. I'm running out of air, So I'm like, oh boy. So then now I move up. Now I'm on the line, and it's getting hotter and hotter. And I'm just like, and then that's when I said, I literally had to have a talk with myself, right? They call it now there's science behind this, called a tactical reset. Right. So I literally just told myself, like, Joe, shut the up. This is why you train. This is why I'm like, slow your breathing down. Breathe. You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Listen, and then then there was like a warmth came over me, besides the heat.
Yeah, you were kind of talking to yourself, David Goggins style.
Yeah. So there was like a and you know, and it just so happened that like the fire kind of burnt itself out in the one room, which allowed us to go back in and over the piles and like hit it with the hose and knocked it down and stuff like that. And then once it's amazing because like once it all the smoke lifts, you're like, I could literally put you in a closet and spin you around and you're going to think you're in a huge living room because of you. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. There are people who are, you get lost in a closet.
Wow.
So,
disoriented.
Yeah. But if I didn't have that, like come to Jesus moment and say, Lord, you got me. This is why I train. This is why I do what I do. And so it all went well.
So it all turned out well, but you had no idea going in if it was going to turn out well. And I, just as I hear you tell this story, I'm thinking there's some lessons that are surfacing that everybody can apply, and that I've seen you and Monica apply even as you've made this transition. And one is once you looked up and you saw the fire blazing, rather than run the opposite direction, you decided we're going up there and we're going to bring some help to the situation.
Yeah.
And how many times we you know, starts heating up and it looks too big.
The opposite way.
We go the opposite direction. And I think another real key lesson that we all can learn from this, that you had that self-talk, you had that conversation with yourself. And while you're having that conversation now about your transition in life, I know you've included God in the conversation. Yeah. So you're also looking for his response, which I think is just a beautiful way of going forward with his will and his help. Mm-hmm. And so many other things I know that we can benefit from just from hearing a story like that.
Honestly, to apply
anything else, Joe, that you can think of, just maybe suggest to our listeners?
You know, it is too. It's like, you asked me about for the people who are stuck, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone becomes stuck.
Yeah. Stuck even in that closet.
There you go. And then when
that sounds weird, doesn't it? Stuck in whatever room it is.
Don't go there.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The mind closet, we'll call it.
There you go. All right.
But when the smoke clears and there's light, you're like, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Or, you know what I mean? Or man, wow, that's all I had to do in order to, that's all it's kind of hard to explain, but my whole point is that it's not that bad. Look at other people in other countries, in other worlds, what they're going through.
Yeah.
Take a shot. You're going to be okay. We're in the greatest country ever. It's going to work out. And if not, it's okay. Fail forward, right? My biggest thing is you need to surround yourself with people who want to grow.
Yes.
And if they're not growing in their faith, finances, fitness.
Hello. I'm hearing something that sounds familiar.
Family, fitness, finance. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's to me, that's my biggest thing. And don't be afraid.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah. I mean, fail forward. And that shows your courage and your boldness. And that's just who you are as a person. But I think someone listening, you have really inspired and hopefully encouraged them to take a step, go through that fire, break through and get on the other side of whatever they're dealing with. And if it's not the exact path that God has for you, keep on moving forward, fail forward, and he'll get you on the right path. So cool. Well, let's wrap this incredible interview up with a fun little snippet about Joe Schiraldo. Give us some fun fact of like something that we don't know about you. Like, give me something kind of interesting.
What's
what do you do? What do you do? Do you I don't know.
You dance in front of the mirror.
Instrument? Do you
listen? The correct answer is I do what my wife says.
Good answer. That's so good.
Well, I used to box.
Oh.
So I used to box. I took up boxing when I was like 30.
Well, what happened? Did you never get hit? It doesn't appear that your face was malaligned in any way.
Funny story is my nose used to be a little crooked, and then I fought a southpaw, which is a lefty. And he
straightened it right up.
He cracked me, and I heard. I was like, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Oh my God, I could breathe." I'm like, "Thank you so much."
There's another life lesson right there. Take the punch; it could turn out better than you think.
It can help you breathe. Oh my goodness, you're so awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So many life lessons here. Anyway, we appreciate you and Monica so much, and you sharing your story with us and encouraging our listeners, because sometimes we just feel stuck in the smoke and the fog and in the fire, and we just don't know how to break through. And you guys are doing great things with this school. And so thank you for.
No worry. Thank you guys for having me. And another thing, which I never thought I'd say, right? Because especially growing up in the East Coast, everything's a scam. And what does this guy want? Coaching is huge.
Are you promoting us right now? This is so nice of you to promote our coaching.
Well, I'm getting a little percentage of that, right, Todd? We're going to talk
about this. Of course.
No, but to me, honestly, coaching, you need those people to guide you. And you can't do this all by yourself. You need God, and you need other people who are smarter than you. You're the smartest person in the room. Get out. So you know that.
Amen. That's all right. Well, how can people learn more about your the school that you and Monica have started? What's the website?
So if you go to Kingdom Montessori, MONTESSORI.com. So it's kingdommontessori.com. You can find that. And then we doing business as Kingdom Education Center. So, but if you want to go to kingdommontessori.com, and
perfect,
you'll find our mission statement, who we are, and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of Your Biggest Breakthrough and inspiring our listeners. And those, all of you that are listening, we thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with you next week, same time, same place. Be blessed.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. I know we just wrapped up that interview with Joe Schiraldo, and so thank you for tuning in. But we wanted to just add a little extra snippet, because Joe talked about coaching and mentoring. And we didn't tell you how you could reach out to us if you're looking for a mentor or coach.
Yeah. So if you're a guy and you would like some help in breaking through a certain area where you're feeling stuck, maybe that's in your career and you're not quite sure, like, what am I doing on planet Earth? Anyhow, what's God's purpose for me? I've helped a lot of guys work through that, or maybe it's in some other area. If you'd like, just get a hold of me and we can talk and find out if we're a good fit. Would love to be able to help you out. Just email me at todd@toddisburner.com. todd@toddisburner.com.
Yeah, you wrote the book, What Every Man Needs to Know, How to Master Your Faith, Family, Fitness, Finance. Hello. So if you need help in those areas, he's your guy. And if you are a woman looking to get into your next level of health and healing and just wellness, mind, body, spirit, emotionally, then I am your gal. You can email me at wendy@wendypet.com. And if you don't know how to spell my name, then go to the show and you can check it out. I spell Wendy a little bit differently. But again, it's wendy@wendypet.com. And let's have a conversation. Let's see if we can start working together, because my goal is to get you in your best, healthiest self. So you can.
And I've seen her do it lots of times over again. She'll do it.
That's true. Yeah. So anyway, that we want to give you that. And then also we just wanted to encourage you, if you haven't already, to follow or subscribe to this podcast, and also share your favorite episodes with a friend. Share it with maybe on your Facebook page, because whatever episode that you were inspired by, I bet you have a friend that it would be encouraging or inspiring for them. So we just want to say thank you in advance for doing that, but do it, please. Thank you. All right. God bless. And we'll catch you next time on Your Biggest Breakthrough. Bye-bye. Head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com, where you'll find some free resources and information, and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.